All right. Hey, everybody here. Mr. Fortin here. And I know what you're thinking. This guy again? What's he doing back here? Why is he bothering me this summer? Okay. Well, nice to see you again, too. I missed you as well. All right. Anyways, I figured I'd just send out a quick email and provide you a resource here because I think it might be worth, a few hours of your time this summer. No pressure. It's a website called IXL. Now, on your attendance question on Wednesday, I put this down because I thought, hey, this is a great website. Right? Somebody in my Algebra 1 class actually told me about this. And if you check it out here, this is the geometry page on this, right? ixl.com/math/geometry. There are 286 geometry skills here ready to be practiced, right? Ready to be practiced here. Okay, I know that's a lot. And I know you're just like, it's summer, I don't want to do that. Hold on with me for a second. Because I actually am thinking, well, this year, did we do as much as what we normally do in a normal school year? No. Is that okay? Yeah, it's totally okay. It's okay. So as I told you already before, we had a successful year, right? We did a good job. We got through everything that the math team, right, the geometry team, wanted us to get through in terms of exposure, in terms of showing you stuff and figuring out how geometry works. So pat yourselves on the back. You've done a great job, okay? So the purpose of this video, though, is for some people like myself, I was kind of a math nerd in high school, still a math nerd now. You might be thinking, well, what didn't we get to, right? What didn't we get to? We met 3 times a week. That's a lot less than 5 times a week we do in a normal school year. We couldn't have gotten to everything that typically gets covered in geometry. And that's true, right? We didn't. So anyways, what this message is about is, well, giving you a couple areas of things that maybe, if you wanted to, you could work on over the summer that our team, right, the geometry team thought was not important, right? Not important to teach you during the actual real distance learning this year, okay? Because we did every chapter in the textbook except for 3 of them, okay? Except for 3 of them. Constructions, right, which is very hard to do distance learning. I'd say don't do it entirely. Coordinate geometry, okay? Coordinate geometry. You actually did the reason why we decided not to include coordinate geometry, chapter 10 in your textbook, is because you do a decent amount of coordinate geometry in middle school, okay? Find the midpoint of a line segment, giving 2 different coordinates of the endpoints. Finding the distance, right, between 2 different points. That's a sort of formula you do learn during geometry. Okay, equation of a circle. Okay, that stuff will all come back up in Algebra 2 and pre-calculus. Okay, so we're not that concerned about it. Would you want to practice this summer? Maybe. That's what this message is about, but we didn't cover that. And then finally, transformations, which we see up here, right? We see up here. So anyways, I have this website right here, IXL, and I think it's actually great to play around with this summer. Not super long, maybe a few hours, and practice a few of the things that we hadn't got to this year, right? Things that maybe would be helpful to have some background knowledge on going into your future classes. The future classes won't expect you to know this, but it's always nicer knowing that, you know what, I poked around with a little bit, I kind of get how it works, okay? So anyways, IXL is here. It works pretty well. One of the tasks that I think, that I have here, so transformations, for instance, you've done these maybe in middle school before. The way it works is, well, you didn't do transformations at all this year. So practice these. Play around with them a little bit here. I pop open this link. I'll pop open this link. And the practice is right there at your fingertips. So check this one out here. Look at this shape. Which image shows a translation? Okay, shows a translation. Maybe you don't know what a translation is. The IXL has a bunch of questions you can practice. It also has tutorials. It explains to you how to do it. So if you want to play around with this, for instance, transformation section, you can open up a task, look at it. You might have remembered what a translation was from middle school. That's just a shift on the graph, okay? So my answer is going to be this one because it just shifted on the graph, shifted on the grid. Okay, so I could choose B, hit submit, I would get it right. Or I could click learn with an example. Each of these questions comes with an example and it has tutorials. It actually gives you the solution here, right? Which is going to be this. So image A was actually the correct one. I got this one wrong. What did I do wrong here? I said B. Oh, this is a learn with an example. This is a different one. Here, this just shifts, okay? Translation is a glide. It shifts, okay? So anyways, this could be super quick to practice some of this stuff, get done with it here, spend like 2 minutes on each of these and kind of get the idea so that later the word translation or something like that comes up in a course you're taking, be like, oh, that's right. That should have come up in geometry. There just wasn't enough time for it here. Okay, get them done. Oh, wait, I got this one incorrect. What did I do wrong here? So let's see here. Oh, rotation. It says rotation there. Yeah, how does it rotate? All right, axis of rotation here. So anyways, rotation, this would be a reflection, it looks like here. And yeah, this looks like it's rotating counterclockwise a bit to A. So I'm going with A here. But it should have been what? Yep, should have been A. Okay, got it. Move on to the next one, practice it. Okay, so I recommend you do this. This is 286 tasks. This is a lot. Do you have to do all these? No, you don't. Let me check it out here. This is the last thing that I want you to show you is this. And I'm sending this out here for your guys to digest, and perhaps you work for an hour or two on this summer. It'd be nice, right, to learn a little bit about transformations, learn a little bit about coordinate geometry, and practice some of the things that we didn't get to this year. Okay, so here it is. What I've done is that what I did today is I went through each and every one of these 286 topics, and I categorized them. And I found things. The ones in orange, those are the ones that I think you should focus on, right? If you do want to work on this for a couple hours this summer here, okay? So went through all those 286 geometry tasks, and some of them aren't even geometry. I'll get to that in a second, okay? And I categorized them. Let me go through the legend real quick for you so you know how to read this. Went through them. I marked the ones green that I think you know how to do, okay? If you did pretty well in geometry, then you know how to do this stuff, okay? You know, for instance, how to write a variable expression. That's actually an algebra review type thing here. You know how to classify triangles, an acute triangle, scaling triangle, or stuff like that. You know the triangle angle sum theorem, right? That the measures of all angles in a triangle add to 180, okay? You know that what the SSS, SAS, ASA, and ASA propositions are, okay? You know those. You know trigonometric ratios. Guys, we've done so much this year, okay? So what I've highlighted down are the things that I think you don't need to practice, and right, they're down here, and there are a lot of them, right? Green, we did a lot of stuff this year. You should be feeling pretty good about your accomplishments and getting done with the course in this strange distance learning year, okay? So we've done a bunch of stuff here. Prove proportions or angle congruences using similarity. Yes, we have. We've applied the AA postulate. We applied the SAS theorem, right, for similarities, proving two triangles similar to one another, okay? So you don't need to redo that stuff here. Just feel good about what you did. Or you could practice it, okay, right? If you forget what HL is, if you forget what SSS is, you want to practice it, you want to feel like you're caught up with what we even did this year, feel free, you can practice that one here, okay? In orange, the next thing, so there are 4 colors that have color-coded this. Orange is probably the most important one. Those are the things, okay? The ones in orange are the things that we did not do this year, okay? Because again, we're only meeting 3 times a week. We didn't do it this year, but in a normal school year, we would have loved to have gotten there, okay? And there are things that I think you could do over the summer on your own, okay? I just showed you some of them at the beginning here. This is an IXL, so find the ones in orange, okay? I just clicked on this, I just clicked on this. So this is section L. We didn't do any transformations. Okay, we didn't do that this year. So perhaps you run through these. Perhaps you spend an hour one day just going through all this transformation stuff, and then boom, we may not have done chapter 11 in the textbook, but hey, do you have some background knowledge on it? Yeah, you do. You got there, right? You got there, and ultimately you're the one who gets to the place where you want to be with your education, okay? So go through all this stuff here. Even starting algebra review, there's some things in algebra that I didn't get a chance to practice with you guys as much as I would have liked to have. So for instance, solving a quadratic equation by factoring or by the quadratic formula. Some people met with me individually being like, hey, I barely remember this coming up in Algebra 1. Help me. Okay, so it's here. So check it out here. Solve an equation by factoring. You can do that one too, okay? We got ourselves an Algebra 1 practice problem. And look, we have some tutorials down here too. Check this one out here. Solve for J. Well, if you're able to factor this, right, you're doing this on a sheet of paper, you factor out a J from this, and this would be J times by J plus 24 equals 0. So my answers here are going to be 0 and negative 12, if you remember Algebra 1. And what's it here? That's partial answer. I don't know how you put both of them. Yeah, 0 and negative 24. My bad. Oh, this is the example here. Okay, so you comma separate. Right? Yeah, some annoying stuff like that. Okay, got it. So this one was, okay, factor this one. I'm not going to do this right now. So anyways, moral of the story, my point of this is the ones in orange might be worth your time to look at here. Okay, because again, solving quadratic equations will come up in Algebra 2 for sure. They'll reteach it, right? Don't worry. But it might be nice to be one of those people who's like, okay, I've done some of that, right? I've done some of that here. Okay, midpoints, right? Midpoints of line segment on a grid. We didn't even do that, right? We got segments. It's on a graph. We have endpoints. We know what the coordinates are. How do we get to midpoint? Practice that, right? Distance formula. There's a distance formula between 2 points on a graph. Didn't do that this year. Again, the chapters we skipped, coordinate geometry, and that would be distance formula, distance to the origin in 3 dimensions. That's actually a semi-challenging thing that I've only taught once or twice in geometry, okay? Midpoint formula, this is all just little stuff that I think you can pick up. I think you can learn here, okay? Graphing a linear equation, slopes of lines. You did that in Algebra 1, as a matter of fact. Do we normally review it now in geometry? Yes, we do, okay? Yes, we do. So that's why this is all highlighted in orange. Nothing too crazy, but if it's been a while since you've taken Algebra 1, maybe you want to do this too, because we didn't have the time really to review a lot of Algebra 1, in addition to geometry we had to do this year, okay? So what I've talked about so far, green dots, I think you should be pretty good at, right? You should be pretty good at. Similarity ratios, similarity statements, yes, okay? Things in orange, okay? Similarity of circles, well, that's something that we didn't really talk about. Similar triangles and similarity transformations, yeah, right? We didn't do much with transformations at all. Areas of similar figures, okay? We didn't talk about that really at all. Here, if you have a triangle, and it's similar to another triangle, what can we say about its area, right? We know what the scale factor is, but what does that have to do with its area potentially, okay? We didn't even talk about that this year, okay? So, but you can do it, right? If you spend a few hours on this over summer break, okay? Last 2 bullet points, which are, last 2 colors at least here, which are the least important. You don't really need to know what these are here because, hey, I'd say just don't do them. I've highlighted in purple anything that's a construction task. Okay? So normally in geometry, of course, it's a highly visual class. You're proving things, you're deducing things, you're inferring things, you're learning like the actual mathematics, but then you're also showing and learning how to actually draw these things in a mathematically acceptable way, okay? And that's called constructions, okay? You have a compass, you have a straight edge, and you construct things, like constructing the midpoint or a perpendicular bisector of a segment. Okay, that's a pretty key construction actually. But okay, so this year, obviously distance learning, we're not going to get our compasses out, our straight edges. No, that would have just been a mess to do through this distance learning computer environment here. So what I'll tell you is this: anything in purple here, I'd say don't do either. Okay, don't do either. It's not worth your time trying to figure out these constructions really on your own over the summer. Okay, because constructions, you know, they're not the most important thing. They're just supposed to kind of enrich some of the things you've already been proving and seeing so far, and realizing that yes, I can use these principles to draw this stuff pretty accurately, right? Draw a perpendicular bisector completely accurately. Inscribe an equilateral triangle in a circle. That's something that you can apply some geometric things here. So, anyways, anything in purple, not worth going over. In fact, my first year teaching geometry, I barely taught constructions. I think I did like 3 or 4 days, and that's typically in the rest of the school district, they just spend like 4 days on constructions, and that's it. So skip the construction stuff, okay? Finally, the other color you'll see in this is red, okay, is red here. These red ones here are topics for Algebra 2, Pre-Calculus, and AP Stats, meaning even here, the 286 things they say are geometry right here, well, maybe some geometry teacher somewhere decides to teach writing equations of parabolas in vertex form using the focus and directrix, okay? But I'm not one of those geometry teachers, and nobody at Lowell, except for maybe we were 1 or 2 teachers, is that kind of geometry teacher who would teach each and everything on this, plus like Algebra 2 and pre-calculus topics here, okay? We'll see a bunch of the ones in red down here, which have to do with probability, okay? Probability. I don't think a single geometry teacher at Lowell has ever taught probability, really. And I could be wrong about that, in their geometry class. So for that, right, this section here, X, although some geometry teachers in other schools might teach it, probability, we don't here. We wait for AP Stats for that here, okay? Hopefully this video is clear enough here. Hopefully this sort of demystifies what this email was that I sent you out to you here. So to recap, guys, you did a great job this year. We got through everything we wanted to, everything we thought was the most essential to get a good geometric background in the topic here. But that being said, there were a few topics we didn't spend time on that, you know, your typical 9th grader or 10th grader spends time on. So my 9th graders I had 2 years ago, for instance, they're in 11th grade now, right? They've done all this transformation stuff, okay? They've done all this coordinate geometry stuff here. You didn't get a chance to do that, so feel free. Give it a shot this summer if you'd like, okay? You don't need to worry about constructions. You don't need to worry about the stuff in red, okay? Message me if you have any questions. Hopefully you take advantage of this. I think you'll feel like, hey, I got a more complete picture of the topic as we have wound down here. We didn't have a lot of time to review at the very end of the year. We just kind of wanted to get through everything. So over the summer, if you do work on this here too, drop me a line. Send me a message. just let me know you're working on them and ask me questions. I'm here to support you. And, I do this job because I want you to get it. I want you to feel pretty good about the topic too. Okay? Email me if you have any questions. Have a great summer, though. Bye. Signing off.